What's up, everybody? Good afternoon. Happy Tuesday. Let's talk a little bit more salary cap because we got a little bit of information last night about the way the Seahawks have distributed their money this offseason. And I figured it was a good opportunity to talk about the overall way in which the team has divvied out contracts this offseason. So, the first thing I want to talk about is this because this is actually really good. This is nice and I do want to give this front office credit where I feel it's due. This is definitely a nice contract that they got Justin Coleman on. So I want to talk about that for a second. But I want to talk about something regarding this whole off season that I do think is commendable. So Corbin Smith has the tweet here. Several other people had it as well. We re-signed Justin Coleman last week, and I said in a video that I guessed he would be signing for anywhere from 2 to 3 million for the year. Turns out it's less than that. It's actually 1.12, which is, I believe, the minimum a player of his experience level can make. So we literally got him for the veteran minimum. That's obviously not a huge deal, but given the fact that Coleman has been a good player in recent times and you can attribute a lot of his falling off to just ending up in situations and ending up on rosters that just didn't really work with him very well. This has a chance to actually be very significant. Justin Coleman could easily end up playing 900 snaps for us this year if he stays healthy, especially if the offense keeps going three and out like it did all of last season. So Justin Coleman, a guy who has proven to be very good for this Pete Carroll defense, a guy who has had some success outside of Seattle since leaving. Me and the Hawks Nest were talking about this the other day. He had 1 year in, I think, Detroit where he actually was still playing really well in coverage. So this is nice. This is a win for sure. Getting Justin Coleman back on the veteran minimum, it has a chance to be one of the best value signings of the whole offseason. Because again, if he gives you 800 snaps or 900 snaps at nickel corner this year and he plays well, then that's really good value. And there's also no commitment to any seasons beyond that. It's just the 1 year 1.12. So I want to talk more about that idea of commitment to future years. I want to take a look at some of the contracts we've handed out this offseason to kind of find the I guess you could call it the silver lining to an offseason that was mostly forgettable in terms of free agency. I think I could fairly call it that. So, obviously, this was not a flashy free agency period for the Seahawks, and I want to be clear about something. I don't mind that at all. We don't have a quarterback right now, as far as we know. We have somebody that maybe there's a little bit of reason to be optimistic about, but you don't want to blow your load. You don't want to just shoot off based off a hypothetical that has very little evidence to back it up. But one thing that I can say about this free agency period, as much as we haven't gotten great players, as much as we haven't done a lot to improve the team, as much as this doesn't strike me as a team that can compete in this division, they have maintained their flexibility. So you have this Justin Coleman contract, but let's take a look at some of these other contracts. Al Woods, he got 2 years, $9 million. And one thing I want to draw attention to here is that next year you can cut him and only owe him 1.75 million, so less than 2 million. Just for anybody keeping track at home, by the time 2023 rolls around, the salary cap should be, if the NFL Sunday Ticket rumor being bought by Amazon is true, the salary cap in 2023 could easily be 280 million. So keep that number in mind going forward. 1.75 million is barely more than 0.5% of the salary cap. So if for any reason you want to move on from Al Woods after this season, you can. The first year the cap hit basically call it 3.5. That's perfectly fine for a good nose tackle in the NFL. But the important thing I really want to indicate here is that even though it's a 2-year, $9 million deal, if you cut him after 2023, before 2023, it plays out more like a 1 year, $5 million deal. And I know that sounds worse, but it might not be depending on where this organization chooses to go in 2023 and on. Now, Kyle Fuller, I'm going to admit the fact that he got any kind of signing bonus is tremendously irritating because this implies he's going to stay. This implies that he is going to be a Seahawk when the season starts. You usually don't give a signing bonus to someone if you think there's a possibility that they get released before the season. If you cut him before the season, you are now eating 150 grand dead. Now, that's not a big deal at all, obviously, but if there was any thought in your head that it could happen, you wouldn't have offered him that signing bonus. So this tells me that Fuller will probably be under contract when the season starts. However, I want to reiterate that there is no commitment to him beyond 2022. So if you've accepted that the 2022 season is kind of a throwaway year, which as of right now, that's what it looks like to me, then little things like this don't really matter that much, even though they annoy me. Joel Bunue, I've already forgotten how to pronounce it. E.A. Bunue. Kind of the same deal that Kyle Fuller got. He actually got a little more guaranteed, but it's basically the same thing. Again, no commitment past 2022, so just the 1 million plus, 1 mil plus cap hit, and then you're out. Nwosu, if you take a look at his contract, the thing I really want to highlight here is that you can cut him after 2022 and you save about 8 million, a little more than 8 million. Now, there's still going to be almost 5 million dead, but if he doesn't play well in 2022, you can pretty easily move off of him, and the 1 year $19 million contract turns into more of a 2 years $19 million contract becomes more of a 1 year $10.5 million contract or so, something like that. I think actually 11 million. And again, on a per year basis, that sounds worse, but it also means that if you look at it that way, it's relatively clean to move on from after a year. Quandre Diggs, this is one of the big contracts we gave out, but look at the way the money is distributed. It's actually a little unusual. This first year, only a $5.8 million cap hit. Now, I would have preferred to front load it because it would have increased flexibility for the future, but if you take a look at this, 2023, he's got 18.1 million on the cap. You can't really cut him yet. There's still too much dead money, although you could and save 10 million. But what I really want to highlight here is 2024, you are able to release him and you save 11 million and only owe him 4 million dead. By the time we get to 2024, the cap is probably going to be over $300 million. So 4.1 million is going to seem like just the cost of doing business with some of these guys. So if you get to that point and it's time to move on, no problem. Will Dissly, we've already been over this. Apparently, his 2024 salary is fully non-guaranteed, so this 3.1 million might not even be, might be zero. I don't know. I read some stuff back when we first signed the contract that the 2024 season was basically, it didn't really exist. He was never going to get any of that money. It is possible that he does get 3.1 million, but again, by that point, the cap that's literally going to be 1% of the cap, probably. So you save 7 million and you have 1% of the cap dead. You can definitely live with that. And then you have a bunch of these other contracts. Austin Blythe, a 1-year deal, just a $4 million cap hit, and then nothing beyond that. Sidney Jones, 1-year deal, nothing beyond that year. Quentin Jefferson, 2-year deal, but only 2 million dead if you release him before 2023. So you could save about 4 million if you do that, and then you're basically just paying him 1 year, 5.5 million. And basically what I'm trying to say is we're very flexible. So that would be the positive I can glean from this offseason. This team is maintaining their flexibility to quickly change out their roster if they find out this roster is not good enough. The only guys we have firm commitments to in 2023 that we have signed this offseason are Diggs and Dissly. Diggs has been a Pro Bowl player ever since he got here, so that is a completely reasonable bet. And Dissly is young enough, and apparently we're going to be utilizing him enough to where he can live up to at least, I guess I'll say most of that contract. I still think it's a ridiculous contract. I think it's insanity. But I will say that we will probably use him enough to where he can live up to at least most of that contract. I'll leave it at that. And there's not a single guy here who is guaranteed to be around come 2023. And by 2024, it's like this whole offseason didn't really happen. So I will credit the front office for at least A, maintaining flexibility to flip the roster in a year and completely flip it in 2 years. And B, you have also opened up almost every avenue in the upcoming draft. What I mean by that is, with the exception of the Diggs and Disley contracts, nothing you did in free agency is going to preclude you from going after best player available in the draft, which is where every team wants to be at the end of the day. Like, okay, we gave Al Woods a little bit of money, but we didn't give him such a big commitment that we can't use our second round pick on a guy like a Travis Jones. Yes, we gave some money to Kyle Fuller and Austin Blythe, but that doesn't mean we can't take Linderbaum if we trade down a little in the first, because the commitment is so small and short term. Yes, we gave some money to Sidney Jones, but we can still draft Sauce Gardner in the first round if he's there, and it doesn't have to be looked at as redundant at all, because Sidney Jones, 1-year deal. Same with Nwosu. There are going to be a lot of really good edge players available at all of our picks, I think. And the contract you gave Nwosu with a relatively clean out after 1 year, you can definitely consider going after a edge rusher even as early as the first round, because Nwosu, you just don't have the commitment. The only positions that the Seahawks can't spend a top-end pick on would be receiver, unless they trade somebody, tight end, and in this draft class that's good because the tight ends in this class are weak, and safety. And I do think there is some merit to that. I do think that is worthy of pointing out as something that is commendable with the way the team has been run this offseason. And I don't mind it because this team doesn't have much hope in the first place. So that is a rundown of the contracts we've handed out. Some of these guys we already knew the money on, some of them we didn't. So it was good to have a quick opportunity to go over the exact details. For those of you who want to know our current salary cap situation, if you take a look at the guys who are top 51 on the team right now, we have about 16 million, not counting Coleman. So it's a little more, less than 15 million. So call it 15 million. And that does account for the fact that you are going to be releasing a lot of these guys at the bottom of the roster. Like, I seriously doubt Greg Island's going to make the 53-man. Kay Johnson's not making the 53-man. Lakiem Williams not making the 53-man. So a lot of these guys are not going to make it. That is reflected in that number. So you also have to remember that the cap, the draft pool cap, is bigger than usual for us this year. Total, it's actually about 11 million. And even if you assume that we're not going to actually retain some of the guys that we take in the 7th round, maybe even the 5th round, which may very well happen, we are still talking about a relatively significant chunk of the cap needing to go towards our draft picks, about 9 million. So you do the math, we're pretty close to capped out. There's not a whole lot else we can do because you also got to stash about 3 million for injuries and stuff you're going to have to do during the season, like promoting practice squatters and signing guys off the street. So you might be able to fit one more guy in. I still think you could get Akeem Hicks and probably fit him in with the money you have left, but there's really not any cap room left because at the end of the day, while I do think it's a good idea for this team to be doing short-term deals, all these short-term deals do add up, and they don't allow you to cram a lot of contracts in. So that's a rundown of the Seahawks salary cap situation. People keep asking me for it. It's a little fluid. It's a little unclear, but I think that's about the best way to sum it up. Short version, there's not a whole lot else we can do. I think we could fit maybe one more decent player in, but we're kind of capped out, or we're right up next to it. So let me know what you guys think. I'm out of here. Peace out. Go Hawks. That's the salary cap rundown, and that's the silver lining, okay? We're not doing a lot this offseason. We haven't been signing a lot of very good players, not a lot of guys who are going to turn a lot of heads, but at least if we pull another rabbit out of a hat with a quarterback, be it a rookie this class or next class, at least the roster will be easy to flip. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks. Let me know what you think.